All right. So for everyone else that's just jumped in, I've just let you know that it is recording. It is recorded. So if you don't want to be visible, just turn off your camera and you won't be seen in the recording. Okay. So hi everyone. Welcome to the webinar on Ultimate Arthritis Diet. My name's Bree. I'm the Health Promotion Coordinator for Arthritis Queensland. And today's webinar will be taking a closer look into the ultimate diet for arthritis, and if there is one that actually exists and what the body of research has identified. So this is one of the most asked questions that we receive on infoline calls and inquiries from our consumers. And it is there a specific diet for arthritis? So the answer is no, but yes, kind of. And the reason why we say this, I think I heard someone sneezing. Sorry. And the reason that we say this is because we cannot pinpoint the exact foods that will work or not work for you and your arthritis. So each person is so different from one another, and especially how they react to foods. So it's really, really hard to say, yes, there is a specific diet for arthritis. And we also know that everyone is affected by their arthritis differently as well. So some foods might work for some people, where others, it may not work at all. So however, there are some foods and diets that can be really, really beneficial for somebody with arthritis. I'm just going to let some more people in, so sorry. So this is a really interesting topic of research, and I absolutely loved analysing this content and learning so much about the different diets and how they can be beneficial for people with arthritis. So I hope you get a lot out of this presentation and you enjoy it as well. All right. So just a little disclaimer, it contains general information and advice. So we've made sure that it's accurate and reliable, but it's not a substitute for individual treatment advice from your doctor or health professional. So always have a chat with your doctor and healthcare team about individual medical or treatment advice. And as always, consult with your doctor or dietitian before starting a special diet, because they can help you avoid any nutritional pitfalls, and they can help determine if you have any food sensitivities or allergies. So in spirit of reconciliation, Arthritis Queensland and New South Wales acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. We pay our respect to the elders past and present and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Okay, so this is the learning objectives of our webinar today. So we'll be covering a few different topics, and firstly, we'll focus on what is a healthy diet, and then what should an arthritis diet look like. Then we'll go into exploring some special diets, and we'll take a look at the ketogenic diet, the gluten-free diet, plant-based diet, and then we'll move over to the Mediterranean diet. And then I'll talk about practical ways you can introduce the Mediterranean diet and healthy eating habits into your day-to-day life. Okay, so people with arthritis, they seek relief through various means, and that can include dietary changes. So while there isn't a one-size-fits-all ultimate arthritis diet, there is new research suggesting that specific dietary strategies can indeed make a substantial difference in managing arthritis symptoms and promoting overall joint health. So in this webinar, we will explore components of an arthritis-friendly diet and examine the evidence supporting its effectiveness. Okay, so what is a healthy diet? So according to the World Health Organization, a diet is healthy when it contributes to protecting against malnutrition in all forms. So that includes undernutrition and overnutrition. So a healthy diet also protects from conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, and stroke. So the main feature of a healthy diet is to be varied and balanced. So it must include plenty of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, fish, legumes, and nuts, and be low in refined grains, unhealthy fats, and minimal amounts of sugar and salt. So what should an arthritis diet look like? So an arthritis-friendly diet is not a miracle cure, but it can be a really valuable component to help manage your arthritis symptoms. So this dietary approach focuses on several key principles that you can see on the screen. And the first one is including anti-inflammatory foods into your diet. So inflammation, as we all know, is a really central factor in many types of arthritis. And incorporating these anti-inflammatory foods into your diet. So this could be from fatty fish, which is really, really rich in omega-3 fatty acids. So you'll hear that quite a bit throughout this webinar. As well as anti-inflammatory foods are fruits and vegetables and whole grains. And this can help reduce inflammation and symptoms. The next one is antioxidants. So they are found in colourful fruits and vegetables, and they actually combat the oxidative stress associated with arthritis and contribute to joint health. So when I say oxidative stress, it is a bodily condition that happens when your antioxidant levels are low. So it's why it's really, really important to have lots of colourful fruits and vegetables in your diet. Sorry, just omitting some people. Okay. And the next one is omega-3 fatty acids. So these are healthy fats and they're abundant in fish and flax seeds and lots of nuts and especially in walnuts. So these have been shown to reduce pain and inflammation in some people with arthritis. And the next one is healthy fats. So replacing those saturated and trans fats with healthy fats like monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats. So using olive oil as your main cooking oil every day. And the last one is to limit trigger foods. So some people find that there are specific foods like red meat or processed sugars or junk food that can worsen their arthritis symptoms. So whether there are specific foods that trigger symptoms is still to be proven by research. So, however, identifying and avoiding trigger foods can be really beneficial, but this can be so different for every person, and guidance should be sought by a dietitian before removing core food groups from your diet. So there are no diets or supplements that will cure your arthritis, but some people do find that their condition is affected by what they eat, how much they weigh, and their physical activity levels. So we're going to go into a bit more detail of this throughout the webinar. Okay, so the first diet that we're going to have a look at is the ketogenic diet or the keto diet. So chuck in the chat box who has heard of this diet before and also who has tried it before. So has anyone heard of the keto diet? Yeah, heard of it? Yeah, it is in so many articles, Geraldine. It's getting a lot of publicity at the moment. So it was good to be able to go in a little bit more detail about it and whether there has been research on how it affects arthritis. So yeah, so heard of it. A few people have heard of it. No one's really tried it yet. Okay, so let's have a look at it, right? Okay, so the keto diet, it includes, it's a dietary approach that includes consuming foods that are higher in fat and lower in carbohydrates to facilitate weight loss, enhance mental clarity, and boost energy levels. So the background, so I'm just omitting some people. Okay, so the background of the diet is that it was predominantly used to treat epilepsy back in 1921. So this diet actually helped reduce the frequency and intensity of seizures. So for almost a decade, this diet was used to manage epilepsy until they created the anti-epileptic drugs. So the science behind keto diet includes significantly reducing your carbohydrate intake and increasing your fat and protein consumption. And this actually brings on makes your body go into ketosis. So this is a metabolic state where our body starts using its fat as its primary fuel source instead of using the carbohydrates that we eat. So the primary goal of the keto diet is to decrease overall body fat and improve metabolic health. So recent research shows the potential benefits in reducing the risk of conditions such as type 2 diabetes, hyperlipidemia, so that's high cholesterol, heart disease, and cancer. So this diet predominantly consists of, as I mentioned, eating more healthy fats, having moderate protein intake, and then a lower carbohydrate intake. So when we say fat, it doesn't mean all types of fat. It just focuses on consuming healthy fats. So your omega-3s, your omega-9s, your monounsaturated fatty acids, and not consuming lots of saturated or trans fatty acids. So they're two like bad, unhealthy fats. So the healthy or the unsaturated fats have been shown to be anti-inflammatory and heart healthy. So one study found that people following a keto diet for 8 weeks experienced a shift in the gut microbiome that may help reduce inflammation. So what we mean by gut microbiome is that collection of bacteria and microbes and other components that are found in our gut that can affect other bodily functions such as our immunity, metabolism, and disease risk. Researchers noted that this is likely due to the ketone bodies that are produced when our body's in ketosis. So ketosis is when we burn a fat for energy and instead of using carbohydrates as our energy source. So the keto macronutrient distribution typically ranges from eating 55 to 60% of our diet from every day from a fat source, having 30 to 35% of protein each day, and then having only 5 to 10% of our food coming from carbohydrates. So if you put that in a typical 2,000 calorie diet, the carbohydrate allowance would only be about 20 to 50 grams daily. So it's a very, very small amount. So when we compare that to the actual normal healthy diet macronutrient distribution range, it is actually 15 to 25% energy from protein and only 20 to 35% from fat and 45 to 65% from carbohydrates. So having 45 to 65%, so predominantly half your daily allowance of calories coming from carbohydrates, reducing all the way down to 5 to 10%. So you can see it's quite a big difference. So there are studies challenging the belief that high fat diets cause obesity and conditions like coronary heart disease, diabetes, and cancer. But these studies have not observed a direct link between the keto diet and these conditions. But what they did find is that a low carb and keto diet have some great benefits for weight loss and benefits on managing diabetes, heart disease, obesity, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, and neurodegenerative disorders, and some cancers. So we know that weight loss can help the management of arthritis. However, at this stage, the evidence for a keto diet in managing arthritis is still lacking. So now we're going to go have a look at 7 of the best fats to eat on a keto diet. So the first one is avocado and avocado oils. So avocados offer a really rich source of heart-healthy unsaturated fatty acids. And they're packed with fiber, and that helps with our digestive health. So you can add avocados to a friendly salad, smoothie, or breakfast. And avocado oil is a really great oil to cook with because it actually gets to that higher temperature. The next one is the extra virgin olive oil, which is, staple in the Mediterranean diet, and it fits well in a keto diet as well. It's packed full of those monounsaturated fatty acids, and it's great for sauteing and using in dressings and drizzling over meat as well. And it's also important to include a variety of different kinds of nuts in your diet, because it's a great way to boost your intake of healthy fats and plant-based protein and fiber. And a high intake of nuts is associated with a reduced risk of heart disease and deaths associated with cancer and diabetes. And nuts differ in their nutrient composition, so make sure to eat a variety of different nuts to get the most benefits. So there's, pistachios and walnuts and almonds, pecans and cashews. So they're really great options for low carb, high fat diets like keto. And you can also make a nut spread with them as well. And the next one is oily fish. So including but not limited to include, salmon, tuna, anchovies, sardines, and mackerel in your diet. And they're really rich in those healthy fats, so those omega-3 fatty acids. The next ones is flax seeds, hemp seeds, and chia seeds. So these are full of anti-inflammatory omega-3 fats, fiber, and health-promoting compounds. And they're really, really full of vitamins and minerals. Though it contains some carbohydrates, but unsweetened full-fat Greek yogurt can be a really healthy addition to a ketogenic diet. It's a great source of beneficial bacteria, known as probiotics, and that can help with our gut health. And then the next one is eggs and cheese. So eggs are really nutritious and versatile, and you make sure to eat the whole egg because the yolk is really rich in B vitamins and antioxidants that really help our eye health. Cheese is a good source of protein and calcium as well. And you can get fermented varieties like cheddar or the Gouda cheese, and they also provide probiotics, but it's really keep in mind not to consume too much cheese because it can be really high in saturated fats. So foods to limit on a keto diet. So the artificially produced trans fats. So these have been known to really significantly increase your risk of heart disease and should be avoided. And they are frequently found in a lot of commercially processed foods, such as your cakes, your biscuits, pastries, all of those ultra processed snacks. And they can fall under different names on the ingredient label on the food item. So it's really, really good to check the ingredient list, because it can be called trans fats, or it could be called partially hydrogenated oils, or even it could be called shortening. So it's best to avoid foods that contain those ingredients. The next one is your processed meat. So all your deli meats and sausages, salami, all of those cured and smoked meats, because there's been an association between high intake of these processed meats and an increased risk of cancers of the digestive tract. So it's really important to keep your intake of these foods to a minimum. And then the next one is your fried foods. So the foods that are high in trans fats, which can increase your risk of heart disease. And these fried foods absorb really large amounts of these trans fats. And then if you eat them all the time, it can really lead to negative health effects. So keep your intake of fried foods to a minimum. So there are some documented potential health risks of consuming the keto diet that everyone should be aware of. So there's only been short-term effects of the keto diet that's been observed up to 2 years with health benefits. So there's lots of, there's been studies that have observed people on the keto diet for 2 years that, yep, it's great, it's had health effects. But after that 2 years, there's not a lot of research. So we don't actually know if there is any long-term potential health risks of taking or being on the keto diet. So some of the short-term health effects are, they're known as the keto flu, and they can be, The symptoms can be resolved in a few days to weeks, and they often include nausea and vomiting, headache, fatigue, dizziness, insomnia, reduced exercise tolerance, and constipation. So if you have these symptoms, make sure to keep your water and electrolyte up to reduce the likelihood of these symptoms. So as I mentioned, the long-term, very, very restrictive keto diets, they can have some negative health effects, such as nutrient deficiencies, digestive issues, kidney stones, muscle loss, and cognitive decline. So it can be really, really difficult to maintain this diet for extended periods of time because it can be really quite restrictive. So is the keto diet good for people with arthritis? So research on whether the keto diet can help with the disease activity of inflammatory arthritis or osteoarthritis is extremely limited. So there's not enough concrete evidence to suggest that this diet will prove to be effective for people with arthritis. There's also very limited research on people who followed this diet for more than 2 years and whether it had any negative health effects, or whether any of the benefits are maintained in the long term once that diet is no longer fully followed. As the keto diet can be quite restrictive, it can be really difficult for people to maintain, sometimes even in the short term. So just remember, being on this diet really long term and being really restrictive, it can increase your risk of nutrient deficiencies, digestive issues, kidney stones, muscle loss, and cognitive decline. All right, so the next diet that we're going to explore is the gluten-free diet. So everyone chat in the chat box whether you've heard of this diet before, whether you're on this diet, or whether you have tried it in the past, and if you're happy to share what your experience has been with it as well. So pop it into the chat box. So this diet is definitely one of the more popular diets, especially there's a lot of people with inflammatory arthritis that do cut out gluten from their diet. Yeah, there's a few people that have followed that are follow the diet. Yeah, gluten-free foods is good for people with IBS as well, definitely. Yeah. Jennifer with celiac disease, so definitely have to follow the gluten-free diet. Yeah, so a few of you tried it, follow it, heard it. All right. So the gluten-free diet is currently the only effective treatment in reducing the symptoms of celiac disease. So celiac disease is a chronic autoimmune disorder that has permanent intolerance to gluten, and it can actually cause really severe symptoms when you eat gluten. So the background of a gluten-free diet is that it completely removes all gluten from your diet. So gluten is a protein that's found in lots of food products, and it comes from wheat, rye, barley, oats, and spelt. So what gluten does, it actually helps baked goods trap air, and that helps them rise and be that really light, fluffy, delicious texture that you have with baked goods. So the one condition where gluten-free diet is really required is people with celiac disease, and it's the only effective therapy for it. So celiac disease, it's an autoimmune disease, and gluten triggers a really powerful autoimmune response that can damage the small intestines and affect its ability to absorb nutrients. And this can lead to gastrointestinal issues such as diarrhea, abdominal pain, and bloating. So for celiac disease and arthritis, so people with an autoimmune disease tend to be more likely to have other autoimmune conditions like inflammatory types of arthritis. So people with conditions like rheumatoid arthritis or sciatic arthritis or lupus or Sjogren's syndrome, for example, are more likely to have celiac disease. So it can be really, really tricky for people to completely stick to a gluten-free diet, as it is in many everyday foods. And many everyday foods contain traces of gluten as well. So it can be found in things like custard powders, icing sugar mixtures, baking powder, meat products like sausages and hamburgers, in lots of sauces, soy sauce, stocks and gravies, and even found in confectionery items as well as ice cream as well. So the gluten-free diet, it is a very popular diet, and many people think that the gluten-free diet is more nutritious and contains more minerals and vitamins than conventional foods, but this is not entirely correct. So gluten-free foods tend to have less folic acid, which is very important for people with rheumatoid arthritis. It has less iron, fiber, and sometimes, not all products, but sometimes the products can have more sugar, salt, and fat as well. So studies examined a trend where people consuming a gluten-free diet had weight gain and obesity. And mind you, this is not everyone that follows the gluten-free diet. It's just a study that was done on foods, the gluten-free foods that had higher salt, fat, and sugar, and the consumption of that. So can gluten-free diet help people with arthritis? So studies found that the gluten-free diet has been associated with benefits in patients with rheumatoid arthritis, though the existing evidence is inconclusive. And the reason behind this is that some studies found benefits of the gluten-free diet on arthritis symptoms. However, the evidence wasn't strong enough to say that it can have a positive effect on arthritis symptoms. So there definitely needs to be more studies to demonstrate whether it is beneficial or not for people with arthritis, for them to exclude gluten from their diet. So does gluten cause inflammation or joint pain? So the evidence doesn't formally conclude whether this statement is correct. There's not enough evidence to prove this, and more information is required. So for people with celiac disease, eating gluten definitely does trigger an inflammation response. But for people who do not have celiac disease, it is still not proven that eating gluten can cause inflammation and joint pain. If you do decide to cut out gluten, it's really important to talk with your healthcare team first, because cutting out gluten completely can be a really restrictive diet. Okay, so the next diet that we're going to explore is the plant-based diet. So once again, chuck in the chat box if you've heard of a plant-based diet, if you've tried the plant-based diet, if you do follow the plant-based diet, and what's your experience with it. So people haven't tried it, some have followed it, some still follow it. Yeah, try and incorporate it more into the diet. And I don't know if a lot of you have watched the new Netflix series, and it looks at people, identical twins. So there was one that does like a normal diet, and then the one that does like a vegan diet, like a normal healthy diet and a vegan diet, and they actually look at the health between the twins. It's really interesting, and it definitely opened your eyes to more plant-based eating styles. I really enjoyed watching that. Oh yes, Geraldine watched it. It's really, really good. Oh yes, Kerry was the vegetarian. Yes, you watched the series as well. It was really interesting. All right, so let's get into it, hey? So the plant-based diet is a really is a popular diet, and it's actually driven by a number of different factors. So many people choose to adopt a plant-based diet for health reasons, or concern out of animal welfare, or a way to reduce their environmental footprint. And some have actually chosen it from celebrity endorsement or the attention that it gets in the media or popular documentaries, just like the one that I was talking about. So the closer that these foods resemble how they're found in nature, so the less processing that it's undergone, and having more of them on the plate, the better it is for your body. So the background of plant-based eating is that it means that most of the food you eat are from plant sources. So fruits, vegetable, whole grains, you got your seeds, your nuts, your legumes, beans, and oil. So this eating pattern may include small amounts of animal products such as eggs and dairy. And then some people may also incorporate some small amounts of meat and fish products. So plant-based can also describe food or drinks that don't contain any animal products at all. So your soy milk and your milk alternatives, as well as your meat alternatives. So these are usually made from soy or textured vegetable proteins or wheat gluten. So eating more plant-based foods like fruits, vegetables, and whole grains can be really beneficial for your heart health, but you don't actually need to be vegan or vegetarian to be following this eating pattern. So the difference between vegan, vegetarian, and plant-based diets are: a vegan diet includes just plants, no animal products whatsoever. Then you've got the vegetarian diet, and that actually includes your plant products, as well as dairy, eggs, and honey. So some animal products. And then a plant-based diet may supplement plants with small portions of meat, eggs, and dairy and honey. So we'll go into a little bit more detail of what I mean there. So this is the different styles of plant-based eating. So the plant-based diet isn't about being restrictive at all. So people who eat mainly plant-based foods may choose to eat really small amounts of meat, poultry, fish, seafood, and dairy. So this is also known as semi-vegetarian, flexitarian, or pescatarian. So the beauty is that there's not one size fits all approach. So the first one, as I just mentioned, your semi-vegetarian or flexitarian. So that includes your eggs, your dairy, and plants, obviously, and may include small amounts of meat, poultry, fish, and seafood. So that might be only a couple of days a week that you incorporate meat products. And then your next one, which is your pescatarian. So that's your plant foods, as well as eggs, dairy, fish, and seafood, but excludes any meat or poultry. Your next one, which is your ovo-vegetarian. So that's your plant foods, and it includes eggs as well, but no meat, no poultry, no fish, seafood, or dairy. And then your next one, which is your lacto-vegetarian. So that's your plant foods, as well as dairy, but no meat, poultry, fish, seafood, or eggs. And then you've got your vegetarian. So that's an actual blend between the lacto and ovo-vegetarian. So that's your plant foods, as well as eggs and dairy, but no meat, no poultry, fish, or seafood. And then finally, your vegan diet. So that is the most restrictive plant-based eating style. It's just plant products and that's it. So no meat, no poultry, no fish, no seafood, no eggs, dairy, or honey. So science shows that people who consume a healthy plant-based diet are less likely to be overweight or obese, and they actually have lower blood pressure levels and cholesterol levels. So are all plant-based foods healthy? So not all plant-based foods are good for you. So when I say this, it's the actual products that you find on the shelves in supermarkets that are plant-based, but they've actually got lots of salt, sugar, or fat into them. So just because they have no animal products doesn't actually mean that they're healthy. They are just junk foods, you know, like your dessert items, your confectionery items that are just, you know, don't have any animal products. So it's really important to read the nutrition label on those products to see what's actually been added into it. And if there's extra salt, sugar, or unhealthy fats, additives, or preservatives added to it, it's not a healthy option. So it's actually, those products are called ultra processed foods, and they've undergone lots of processing to have that long life shelf on the shelf, and all those things that they add into it increases taste within the product, but also limits its nutrient composition. So when choosing plant-based foods, it's about choosing foods that are whole foods with minimal processing done to them. So including lots of vegetables and fruits and whole grains, having a variety of healthy protein sources. So like that flexible vegetarian diet, including, fish and seafood, legumes such as beans and lentils, and nuts and seeds, and having, smaller amounts of eggs and lean poultry. And then if you do choose red meat, limit it to 1 to 3 times a week. Then your unflavored milk, yogurt, and cheese, healthy fat choices, so nuts, seeds, avocado, olives, and their oils for cooking. Having herbs and spices to flavor your foods instead of adding salt. And then choosing water as your main drink. So how to eat more plant-based foods. So this is a really great image from the Heart Foundation, and it sums up some creative ways to incorporate more plant-based foods in your everyday meals. So adding some more legumes to your meals, so putting beans instead of mincemeat in your tacos, using the canned or dried versions of vegetables and beans. And if you do choose canned, go for the no added salt option. So you can add your lentils, chickpeas, or beans to soups, curries, stir fries, snack on some mixed beans, or even have some hummus with vegetable sticks. And that's something that I have weekly. I love it. Replacing your meat with lentils, beans, and tofu. So once again, stir fries, curries, soups. It's really good to chuck some tofu in there, and use lentils and beans instead of in pasta sauces and curries. And then try making your own vegetable patties instead of meat patties. The homemade ones are obviously really great because they don't have any of those additives or preservatives chucked in it compared to the ones that you buy in the store. Snack on unsalted nuts or seeds, or roasted chickpeas, and then have vegetables in every one of your meals. So you can even jump on the Heart Foundation's website to look at some meat-free recipes. There's some really, really great recipes in there, and I recommend checking them out. So now we're going to have a look at the potential negative health effects of a plant-based diet. So with super restrictive plant-based diet, so this is the one that are really, really, really restrictive, there can be a chance of having vitamin and mineral deficiencies such as B12, vitamin B12 and D, and calcium. And these vitamin minerals are really important for our bone health. So several studies found that a plant-based diet is beneficial for reducing cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. So, however, in some really rare cases with extremely restrictive vegan diets, some studies have shown that the vegan diet may be associated with adverse health outcomes for our nervous system, our skeletal and immune system, as well as mental health problems due to the potential for micro and macronutrient deficiencies. So if you choose to adopt part-time or full-time a plant-based diet, just have a chat with your doctor or specialist about ways to reduce your risk of having the micro and macronutrient deficiencies. And it's always good to have a chat to a dietitian as well. So the least restrictive plant-based diets, you won't have that increased risk of those vitamin and mineral deficiencies. But yeah, always have a chat with your doctor or specialist before changing eating patterns. So can a plant-based diet help with arthritis? So a study looked at the plant-based diet in participants with osteoarthritis. What they saw was a slight reduction in pain when they compared it to people that ate a meat diet, healthy meat diet. So this pain reduction occurred as early as 2 weeks after starting the plant-based diet. And whilst this study saw a reduction in osteoarthritis pain and symptoms, it also may have been a placebo effect. And it could have been due to the weight loss of those participants on the plant-based diet. So the people that ate the plant-based diet, they actually consumed less kilojoules, which resulted in them losing weight, which can also help with osteoarthritis symptoms and pain. So for every kilogram of weight loss, there's also an 4 kilogram reduction in the mechanical load that's been placed on your knee during daily activities. So a weight loss of 7 to 10 kilos has shown to reduce knee pain by up to 50% in overweight people with arthritis. So the improved pain levels could have been from increasing the intake of omega-3 fatty acids as well. So as we know, diets that have omega-3 fatty acids and plant proteins can decrease pain in people with arthritis. So another study looked at rheumatoid arthritis and whether the plant-based diet can play a role at reducing RA symptoms. It examined so many studies out there that looked at plant-based diet and rheumatoid arthritis. And what it found is that diets rich in vegetables, fruits, and fiber are associated with lower body mass index, so lower weight, have anti-inflammatory properties, and actually reduced pain and inflammation in these patients. So the studies that showed that dietary fiber found in plant-based foods can improve gut bacteria and increase the bacterial diversity in rheumatoid arthritis patients, which can potentially reduce inflammation and joint pain. So, can a plant-based diet help people with arthritis? So there does need to be a lot more research done to test the effectiveness of plant-based diets on joint pain, inflammation, and quality of life in people with arthritis. But those who did, in the studies that did follow the plant-based diet, had weight reduction, which in turn improved their rheumatoid arthritis and osteoarthritis symptoms. So it seems that people that ate the plant-based diet had seen improvements with osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis because it actually cut out processed and unhealthy foods and actually increased people's intake of whole foods with minimal meat products. And this all in turn reduced everyone's weight, which we know can really, really improve arthritis pain and inflammation levels. So plant-based foods are really rich in anti-inflammatory properties, and this had a positive effect on people's gut bacteria by increasing the diversity of good bacteria. So if you watched the gut health webinar last year that I did, we know that the more diverse gut bacteria that we have, it actually had better improvements in disease outcome for arthritis. So as always, chat with your doctor or dietitian before starting a special diet so they can help reduce any nutritional pitfalls and help you determine if you actually have any food sensitivities or allergies. All right, so now we're going to have a look at the Mediterranean diet. So who has heard of the Mediterranean diet? Who follows it? Who hasn't heard of it? What's your opinions of it? It's definitely one of the most researched diets out there. And it's something that you may have heard Arthritis Queensland, New South Wales talk quite a lot. Yes, Geraldine says easy to follow, yummy too. I know, I love the Mediterranean diet. It's a very healthy diet, definitely. And yeah, you'll find a lot of, well, hopefully a lot of doctors and specialists do recommend people to follow it because there is a lot of positive effect, like health effects. Oh yeah, lots of people that have heard of it and tried it. All right, so let's have a look. So there isn't a specific diet for arthritis, which we all know. However, a lot of the research points to the Mediterranean diet. So over several past decades, the Mediterranean diet has been investigated and promoted as the healthiest dietary pattern by reducing people's chronic disease risk. There's also been a lot of studies out there that show that people that follow the med diet, I'll refer to it as the med diet, have lower rates of developing osteoarthritis and reducing the severity of osteoarthritis. So it can be assumed that the med diet with like genetic factors or lifestyle factors could explain the lower rates of rheumatoid arthritis in Southern Europe compared to Northern Europe and North America. So the med diet is associated with reduction in cardiovascular and cancer deaths, as well as rates of Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. So the background of the Mediterranean diet, it's rich in plant-based foods such as whole grains, legumes, fruits, vegetables, extra virgin olive oil, and it's really low in red meat consumption. The Mediterranean diet might have the potential to reduce the risk of some chronic conditions and help manage pain associated in all types of arthritis. So this is the med diet food pyramid. So it's really based on healthy whole foods and very limited processed foods. So lots of vegetables, fruits, using extra virgin olive oil, whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds, fish, and seafood. And then using onion, garlic, and herbs and spices in your diet. So we're going to go through and break down each of these sections. So the reason why it's beneficial for people with arthritis is that the bottom of the pyramid, it does promote to be physically active every day and to actually eat your food in company. So food's supposed to be shared, and it's supposed to be a joyful experience. Drink lots of water as well, and it's really rich in anti-inflammatory properties. So the foods that are found in the bottom of the pyramid, as you can see, there are lots of fruits and vegetables, whole grains, olive oil, herbs and spices. They are actually anti-inflammatory foods. So it recommends basing every single meal you have on these foods, and that can help reduce joint pain and swelling associated with arthritis. In this bottom section here, it's really, really rich in antioxidants. So these foods have lots of vitamins and minerals, so vitamin E, vitamin C, and carotenoids. So carotenoids are the pigments that produce that really bright yellow, red, and orange color in plant foods. And they help strengthen your immune system and reduce oxidative stress and protect against joint damage. So the next section is seafood, fish and seafood. So salmon, tuna, anchovies, sardines, and mackerel. So they're really, really abundant in the med diet, as they're a really, really rich source of omega-3 fatty acids. And as we know, omega-3s are anti-inflammatory, which can improve your joint health and mobility and help reduce joint pain. The next one up the top is poultry, eggs, cheese, and yogurt. So that's to have it, moderate portions daily to weekly. And then finally, the very top of the pyramid is the red meat and processed foods and refined sugars. So these foods trigger inflammation and may worsen your arthritis symptoms in some people. So they actually alter the bacteria that live in our gut. And this alteration can have the ability to interact with our immune system and eventually trigger it in a way that can lead to chronic inflammation. So the med diet suggests consuming less of these foods. So it might only be like once or twice a month, and to consume them in moderation. So a thing that I wanted to also point out is nightshade foods. So we get a lot of questions whether people should cut out the nightshade foods and whether they affect their arthritis. And so the nightshade foods are eggplant, tomatoes, peppers, and potatoes. And as you can see in the Med diet, they're all in here at the bottom of the pyramid, and they're actually really central in the Mediterranean diet. Some people believe that they may trigger arthritis flares, but there's not enough scientific literature out there to support this theory. So the Med diet drew the attention of lots of medical professionals, and as it held so many health benefits for those who consumed it daily. So it results in a reduced cardiovascular risk, metabolic syndrome, obesity, type 2 diabetes, cancer, some neurodegenerative disorders such as Alzheimer's and Parkinson's disease. And it's been shown that the Mediterranean diet can reduce the disease activity and pain and stiffness in people with inflammatory arthritis. So when it's paired with the medicines, the pharmacological treatment of inflammatory arthritis, the Med diet decreased the disease activity and it improved the quality of life of people with rheumatoid arthritis and lupus. In other studies, the beneficial effects of the Med diet have been seen on prevention, treatment, and reducing symptoms of pain and increasing the physical activity in people with RA, rheumatoid arthritis. So multiple studies found that the Med diet has beneficial effects in reducing pain and increasing physical function in people with rheumatoid arthritis. So having a higher consumption of fish, olive oil, and cooked vegetables are associated with lower severity of rheumatoid arthritis. So the Med diet has been gaining popularity not only in the scientific literature, but also in clinical settings due to its health benefits. So while there is evidence to suggest that this dietary pattern is beneficial for osteoarthritis, rheumatoid arthritis, and potentially lupus, there still needs to be some more research done on other types of arthritis. So, can the Mediterranean diet help people with arthritis? So some doctors and rheumatologists suggest that the best diet for patients with arthritis is having a diet that's rich in anti-inflammatory foods. And that really does revolve around the Mediterranean diet and also the flexible plant-based eating pattern. So they're actually quite similar, the flexible plant-based and the Mediterranean diet. So people who follow this diet tend to lose weight. They see their energy and their sleep and joint system symptoms improve. So the reason why the Med diet is so successful in some people is that it can improve the health of their gut microbiome as well. So when our gut bacteria is off balance, we have gastrointestinal symptoms and they start appearing, and that can be the underlying trigger of some autoimmune conditions. So consuming a really healthy diet can help our gut bacteria reset. So the answer to this question is yes, the Mediterranean diet, the flexible plant-based eating diet can help people with arthritis when it's paired with physical activity as well. So it's really important to note that if it helps someone's symptoms, there may also be a chance that it might not help you. So arthritis is so different for everyone, and foods affect people so differently, and some might see improvements in their overall well-being, while others may not see the same beneficial effects. So now we're going to have a look at some practical ways to introduce the Mediterranean diet eating patterns in your day-to-day life. So the Med diet's not just about what is eaten, but it's also about what is not eaten or eaten rarely. So those highly processed convenience junk foods, they're rarely eaten. So the Med diet lifestyle that goes with it is involving regular physical activity, sharing meals with each other, and minimizing stress levels. So a sample of what a day's menu could look like when eating the Med diet could be: for breakfast, you could have some Greek yogurt with strawberries and unsalted nuts. Lunch could be a sandwich made with whole grain bread, hummus, and salad vegetables such as tomato and cucumber. And then dinner could be tuna, which could be tinned or fresh, doesn't matter, with a big green leafy salad, boiled eggs, canned beans, and extra virgin olive oil, and a fruit salad for dessert. So this information was found from Dietitian Australia's website. So you can actually go to their website and check out the Mediterranean diet recipes on there as well. They've got lots on there. So another sample of what a day looks like if you ate the Mediterranean diet could be for breakfast. You could have whole grain toast with avocado or tomato. You could have egg or smoked salmon with it, or you can even have some oats with milk, banana, and honey. Lunch could be a really giant salad with a 4-bean mix, some feta cheese and olives, or you can even just have veggie sticks with hummus, some eggs and nuts, and a little bit of dark chocolate as well. And dinner could be a piece of fish or any seafood, half a plate of different green vegetables with any orange vegetables. Or it could be a really big salad with some fish, avocado, feta, and olive oil dressing. Then you could finish it off with some berry and nuts as well. So I thought I would just touch on the role of diet in gout and just briefly mention it and how diet can have an impact on gout symptoms. So gout is a really painful condition that's caused by the crystallizations and of excess uric acid in the joints, and it predominantly affects areas such as the big toe. So uric acid is a natural byproduct of the breakdown of purines, and these are compounds found in different food items. So when the body produces too much of the uric acid or doesn't eliminate it properly, these crystals then can form in your joints, and that can be that really severe pain and inflammation of gout. So therefore, what we actually eat directly influences uric acid levels in our bodies. So the dietary contributors of gout, so certain foods are really high in purines, and eating too much of them can increase our uric acid levels. So these include red meat, organ meats, and seafood, and they're especially and that is especially seen in shellfish. And these are the common culprits, as well as alcohol, so beer, and these have all been linked to increased risk of gout. And then you've got your high fructose corn syrup. So that's actually found in sugary beverages, and it's been linked to gout as well. So the gout friendly foods, so opting for low purine foods, so lots of vegetables, spinach and broccoli, for example, fruits, so berries and cherries, and whole grains like brown rice and oats. So they're really good fruit, reducing risk of gout, as well as drinking lots of water. It's important to have lots of water because it helps flush out the excess uric acid. So if Jess, my manager, is here, she's going to chuck a link into, oh, there she is. She's put the link in there to access the gout and diet information sheet if you want to have a little bit more of a read on some diet tips for gout. Okay, so now we're going to finish up with some 12 practical steps to introduce healthy eating habits into your day-to-day life. So over this webinar, we've explored lots of different diets and if they can help those with arthritis. So the Mediterranean diet and the flexible plant-based diet were the diets that had lots of positive research outcomes on improving the quality of life and pain for those with arthritis. So it can be a healthy dietary pattern. Both of them can be that is sustainable, it's easy to follow and adopt. So they include, lots of fruits and vegetables and whole grains, and then having more legumes, tofu, nuts, and olive oil. So the take-home message from this webinar is to try these 12 practical ways to introduce these healthy eating habits into your daily life. So the first one is to increase your plant-based foods. So fill half of your plate with colourful and non-starchy vegetables, and experiment with roasting, grilling, or sauteing your vegetables in olive oil and herbs for added flavour. Choose whole grains, so swap refined grains for whole grains like brown rice, quinoa, and whole wheat. So you can start with small changes like choosing whole grain pasta or brown rice for your favorite dishes. So incorporate healthy fats into your diet. So replacing, the butter with olive oil for cooking and salad dressings. And there's lots of different types of olive oil. So extra virgin for salads or light olive oil for cooking. Eat more fish, so include those fatty fish like salmon, mackerel, or sardines in your diet twice a week. As I've said multiple times, they're rich in omega-3 fatty acids, which is really important for joint health. And you can try different cooking methods such as grilling your fish or baking it, and add lots of different herbs and citrus for flavour. Add some nuts and seeds to your meals so you can snack on them of unsalted nuts, or sprinkle them on your salads or yogurt. And as I've mentioned, have lots of different variety of nuts because they change in nutrient composition. So it's important to have a varied amount. And the chia, flax seeds, hemp seeds are rich in omega-3 fatty acids as well. Include legumes in your diet. So incorporate those beans, lentils, and chickpeas into soups, salads, dishes, as well as curries and stir fries. So you can actually make a really big batch of these meals and then freeze portions of them for quick, healthy meals during the week. Go easy on red meat. So reduce your red meat consumption. And if you do have it, choose lean cuts when you do. Consider plant-based alternatives like beans, lentils, or tofu for that extra protein in your meals. Enjoy dairy in moderation and choose Greek yogurt and small portions of cheese. So use yogurt as a base for sauces or dressings and experiment with different cheese varieties. And prioritize fresh fruits. So choose fresh fruits for snacks and desserts, and you can keep a bowl of fresh fruit on your kitchen counter for access. Practice mindful eating. So sit down for meals, savor each bite, and pay attention to your body's hunger or fullness cues. So turn off your screens and create a pleasant dining experience. And choose water as your primary beverage and limit your sugary intake of sugary drinks. You can infuse your water with citrus slices or herbs if you don't like the taste of plain water. And experiment with herbs and spices, so replacing salt with these to enhance the flavour of your meals. So I thought it would be really good to share this resource. So the Joint Action podcast is done by the amazing Professor David Hunter. So he came on last year and did the webinar on osteoarthritis. So he actually has his own podcast, which is called the Joint Action. I highly recommend checking it out. I'll actually post the link of his website in the chat box, but there's an episode on there specifically about plants for joints. So lovely Wendy has done a study on a plant-based diet for osteoarthritis. And honestly, it was done over a 4-month period on the benefits of plant-based eating and exercise for people with osteoarthritis and rheumatoid arthritis. And the research is really amazing. So I really, really highly recommend listening to it. It's only half an hour long, and it's a really great study on the benefits of plant-based eating and arthritis health. So you can listen to the podcast on his website, which is this, or you can find it on Spotify or any of the podcast apps on your phones that you have. So it's called Joint Action. And I actually listened to one yesterday that he'd done on gut health, and that was really interesting. Gut health and osteoarthritis. Definitely recommend listening to that one too. I'll pop the link for the website into the chat box as well. And the additional resources from the podcast episode, that's the Plant for Health website by Wendy, and that's her research paper of that 4-month study she's done, if you want to have a little read over it. Okay, so that is it. I'm just going to stop sharing. There we go. Amazing. All right, so have some time for some questions, maybe only 1 or 2, just because I've gone over time, sorry. Where's the chat box? Here it is. Just going to put the link for that joint action podcast. Oh, thanks, Katrina. I love that feedback. That's so lovely. I don't ever know if I'm going too fast or not fast enough. I'm just going to stop recording as well.